So then the next order of business is update the railroad station building. The commissioners have been looking at the building. As you know, the commutation is way down and our building is closed right now because our concessionaire, Bobby, left in the fall. And we think that at the moment, with only a maximum of 50 commuters going through the railroad station on any given day, right at the moment, we're probably going to winterize the building. And then at some point in the winter, when we see how the pandemic is going, reach out to small businesses, somebody that might be looking to have a coffee shop or perhaps even something like a dog grooming setup to use the building. It does need some renovations and repairs, and the DOT has advised that that responsibility is probably going to fall to the taxing district or to the person that wants to open a business there. So we appreciate Ted Cook has been instrumental in beautifying the front of the building as best as possible. And once we have some indication of when the pandemic is going to lift, we will more aggressively pursue putting some type of business in there. Because business is so low at the station and we're not receiving any daily parking, we've had to let go 2 of the security guards. Our revenues are way down and we've had to cut back the hours of our guards that do the enforcement. They are still enforcing, so people cannot park for free and you have to have a permit. With regard to permits and the wait list, we've sold about 3/4 of our annual permit holders have renewed, but we need to release some names on the wait list, which we are going to do in December once we work through a technical glitch with our service provider, Park Mobile. Right now, we're working through some wait list sign-up issues, and once we get that resolved, we will release some names. And we're also looking into doing a little bit more beautification down on the slope, perhaps putting in some new ground cover. But for right now, that's on hold. Do any of the commissioners or Gil have any questions about the railroad station?
No.
No. John? No? Okay.
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
I think my only comment on the train station would be, you know, Park Mobile, we've had some problems with. I hope they're proving to be more responsive. I know this has been a big headache and I don't know how long our contract with them is, but we should do something. If they can't perform, then they need to go.
Yep, well, we have, Ed has also reached out to one of the other service providers that were in the running when we switched over from basically manual to automated payment. And if their program works better, we might make a switch. But
Okay.
we want to get through this process with them first and see if we can make it work. And if we can't, then we might just do that and we might shop around for some other vendors as well. But we really don't want to go through the process of having all of our permit holders now switch over yet again to another service provider, because that's sort of a pain for the commuter. But we will keep you posted on that. Okay, then the next thing on the agenda is the update of the Bailey Beach drainage, and we'll ask Commissioner Barbas for a report on that.
So on Bailey Beach drainage, our engineer, who has been doing a lot of work on this, ended up in the hospital with COVID, not on a ventilator, and the guy is a young guy, he's maybe in his mid-30s. They have done some work with one of their coastal engineers who oversee these types of plans, and they believe everything we want to do is considered maintenance, and we could get one permit that would cover all of this. So we were making some good progress with this, but whatever, this engineer's hospitalization has now put everything on hold for the last 2 weeks. And we're waiting. He's now out of the hospital, but recovering, and so we're waiting for him to make some progress in his recovery. I did ask that the coastal engineer in their office maybe deal with me directly, but I have not had a response yet. So we made some progress. I was hoping to have a more comprehensive report, but because of the hospitalization, we're a little behind schedule there.
Understandable. All right. Well, we hope he recovers. Very good. Thank you. So then we want to also have the update on the Ambler parking lot expansion.
So the Ambler parking lot expansion is similar. We're also working with an engineer. The issue there, we do have a proposed plan, which we looked at the last meeting, and we would not interfere in the wetlands, but we would be building some parking spaces in the buffer zone. And so we would need to get a permit to do so. We think, the engineer thinks we have a good chance of doing that. The Conservation Commission was contacted, and that's just when the engineer got sick. We also have been in touch with our neighbor, Kevin Conroy, who owns the abutting property, who we have an easement over his property, if you remember that agreement. And part of the parking lot expansion would include expansion on his property. So he's been out of the country, but he's now back. I spoke to him this week, and he is open to doing something. And so the next step will be hearing from the Conservation Commissioner about, how we could go about doing this.
Is that still Alexis?
Yes, she's still the one person there.
That's good. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Commissioner Neary, do you have any update on Pinckney Park that you'd like to report on, just since we're talking about district properties?
Well, we just lost a beautiful cedar tree that was right along the water's edge
He is
in the storm the other night.
Turn your volume
It
up,
just
John.
totally uprooted.
He's unmuted.
My volume's not on? I don't know. Can you hear me now? You don't hear me?
He's unmuted.
Do you hear me now?
I can hear you, John.
They are saying they can hear him. Why can't we hear him?
Yeah. Maybe you don't want to. Well, for everybody else, we just lost a beautiful cedar tree that was down at the park along the seawall. We had just cleared it a bit and put a nice stone under there for seating. And that just came down in the storm the other night. It was so uprooted and the roots weren't very deep, so we didn't think we could really reestablish the tree, and so we cut it up. We looked to see what we could do in the spring there, and that's all.
I've never heard this.
I hope somebody heard me.
All right. Well, okay. Thank you, John. We were having a little bit of trouble hearing you, but we'll get the clarification.
I hear you. I heard you loud and clear.
Okay. So could you mute me for a second, Mike? Okay. So
Hold on.
Mike, I think you're muted. Can anyone hear Mike?
I can hear you, Andy.
I can hear you, John, but Mike's muted. In fact, the little red microphone is red with a line through it.
Yeah, I know. I see that.
The next,
Hold on. You're unmuted. Okay.
okay, the next topic on the agenda is the old school fence, a vote on December 2nd. I think a number of people on the call know that we've had some conversations about the fence, and we have come up with a proposal for a vote. And we received this evening at about 6:30 some ideas for some other guidelines, which the commissioners will review. We will then post the proposals on an email, and people can review them and then vote in person. If you're not comfortable voting in person, you can be in touch with the district clerk and we will work out a way to receive your vote. All people that do vote on these proposals must be registered voters in the city of Norwalk. And
in the sixth taxing
and
district?
in, excuse me, in the sixth taxing district.
Who's saying they can't hear you, Tammy? Okay, I don't know.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me. So we're going to send that out by Thanksgiving, by our email blast. So everybody that's will have a chance to review it and make your choices. And then the commissioners will make a decision at that point. Okay.
And maybe people, you want to have comments now?
All right. If anybody would like to comment on that now, you
Just put
can
their hand up.
raise your hand or type in on the chat.
Oh, Rob Pratt.
Okay, I think we're trying to get Rob Pratt.
Yes, hi.
Pratt.
So
Pratt.
I bet they hear you speaking.
So just-
Pratt, Rob, hold on. We can't hear you.
I don't know what,
Just a moment, please.
I don't know how to fix that, Tammy.
Okay.
He's unmuted.
He appears to be unmuted.
testing.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we can hear you now.
All right, great.
And yours on.
So yeah, I just wanted to share that, we have a small group of people that have been collaborating with others and getting input around, proposed policy. We sent that in this afternoon. And we're just, advising people that are attending the call that there is a public Google Doc that we've created that just, walks through the policy proposal that we've come up with, the rationale for some of the decisions we've made, and some of the processes that we've established that would hopefully make it easier to manage this sort of expansion of what would be allowed on the fence. We've also tried to craft wording around establishing a higher level of expectation of the dialogue that would be permitted on the fence. Obviously, we respect that a lot of people don't want to see the fence become a battlefield of ideologies. Nobody here is looking to do that from our group. The overall feeling is that human rights is something that's worth voicing support for, and that these shouldn't be as divisive as some people make them to be. We're certainly trying to, in our proposal for a policy, create ways of maybe mitigating those sorts of contentions and hopefully creating a high enough bar where whoever wants to voice support for a particular human rights cause would need to demonstrate that they have support of at least 100 residents that also support them putting this up, that there's an established time period in which it could be displayed. And if they want to have it go further, there are certain requirements for that, including securing the support, again, of 100 additional, 100 residents to say, yes, we also support this being on the fence. And a strict prohibition on any political party, political candidate, either targeting or promoting, et cetera. So I'd be, we've shared it among some of our supporters already, that Google Doc will be going wider with that as we collect comments. And we're also, just to put out there, this is not meant to be developed in a vacuum. We're looking to collaborate with people and take in ideas, which we've already done. But we're looking to collaborate and not create problems or issues or a lot of heartburn for the commissioners in particular, because we don't feel that it's necessarily fair on you to be taking on the brunt of a lot of the contention that some of this can create. So we're looking to go above some of the contention, but also give a framework that enables you guys to say, this is the process. Here are the guidelines. If you don't meet the guidelines, sorry, this, we can't recommend that the sign that you want to propose goes up. So that's where I think I'll leave it. I'm happy to take any questions about what we've proposed. If anybody out there has questions about that, otherwise I will turn it over to anybody else that wants to speak. Mike, we can't hear you.
Drew Seath has indicated he wants to speak, and he has his hand up. Drew, you might have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I think I'm unmuted. So, Rob, it's hard to comment on what you've said because I don't know if you've shared this publicly beyond your group, but my question would be, have you taken into account things like highly contentious issues that some would consider apolitical, like, for instance, abortion rights? I would bet that either side of the abortion rights issue could get 100 people in town to sign something saying that they think that they should have a sign either for or against abortion rights, picking just one topic. I personally think that this is a big mistake. That 2 weeks, you can put something up for 2 weeks. That's the rule, and let it be gone.
I certainly understand that perspective. So, the guidelines that, they are publicly available. I could put the link up in the chat, and I'll do that in just a second. But basically, we try to structure the framework that it's positive, supportive statements of human rights, that, any expression that is looking to deny people of rights or oppress a specific class of people would be denied or not permitted or not welcome. So, I'll put the link up, and, you guys can see it. And then we have an email account that can be used for giving feedback, as well as the Google Doc can take comments.
So who decides whether they're oppressing other people's rights or not? Who decides, who's the arbitrator? Who is the judge of whether something is good enough to be allowed or not good enough to not be allowed? Are you and your group the ones that decide whether the rest of Rowayton should look at this sign? And by the way, I'm highly supportive of the concept of Black Lives Matter. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it gets to the whole topic of, burning the American flag, which the Supreme Court, very grudgingly, I think, said was legal, because that's the whole thing about free speech. I think you are crawling into Pandora's box and creating a giant problem for this community that is going to go on forever. And I will stop talking, but I think you're making a mistake.
I certainly appreciate the perspective. There's obviously a lot of concern that everybody shares in regards, to this. I think the main thing is that we're trying to establish with the proposal positive, supportive, etc. So burning the flag would not be considered supportive. Denying, people their rights in terms of choosing what happens with their body is not considered positive or supportive. On top of that, there have to be 100 residents in town that say, I agree in putting this statement up on the community fence and what that implies for the, political ramifications or the emotional ramifications of that statement. And that will be public record. That those people will be public record. And so there will be, them signing their name to whatever statement they're choosing to put up on the fence. And then in terms of, the arbiters or deciders, there's a framework. Anything could be tightened up. And that's why we're happy to collaborate with people in terms of tightening this up and trying to make sure that it's elevated and focused on the positive and supportive. But the arbiters, in terms of, does this meet the guidelines that has been established and that I assume the town would be voting on, the commissioners would just say, listen, according to the guidelines, what you're trying to put up, we know won't be considered or seen as positive or supportive and not related to human rights. And therefore, we can't agree with this sign being posted up.
Okay, I don't think I see any other hands up. If someone, oh, Daniel Honan would like to speak. Sorry. Daniel, there you are, and you're unmuted, it looks like.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I don't believe I was next in line. Happy Clam, I just want to make sure you saw her as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see her. I didn't see that. Char,
if it's
either one of
okay-
you, go ahead.
Hi, Dan, you can go ahead.
Okay,
Thanks.
yep. Look, I want to echo a lot of what Rob said. I want to also thank him. I think you've done an excellent job. And I want to also echo what you said about, seeking collaboration and feedback. I know that this is fresh, so, I feel very much in support of this, but I'll think more about it. So, I think we all should. But I would also like to ask the commissioners to consider endorsing this. As you think about it, it would mean a lot if you did. And if you have concerns about it, again, the collaborative aspect of this and the feedback, this is something that I personally would love to be a part of. And I think that the spirit in which this has been brought forward, that's what it's all about. And so, lastly, I think that, I know Rob has thought about this. I know a lot of us have thought about this Pandora's box issue. And I think he's found a very good way to address that, which is that this is not supporting a political candidate. This is not supporting a political agenda of some sort. This is about human rights. And this is something that the community of Rowayton will decide that this is what we stand for. And that seems like a very fair way, to go about this. Again, I welcome any feedback, and thoughts about a better way to do that, but I can't think of any. So I want to thank Rob for all the work you put into that and really good thinking. I think it looks excellent, and let's keep talking about it.
Okay, Char, you're next. You have to unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you, Mike. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rob, Dan, and whoever else was speaking. I just want to take a step back because as noted, Rob has done a tremendous amount of work on this. We've been collaborating with him, but he really put the pedal to the metal and created the architecture for this. But before we even talk about that again, I just want to take a step back. At the last meeting, it was decided that we would have an in-person vote at the community center with an option to work with Andrea to, vote remotely. But my immediate question when that was decided is, what is the vote on exactly? I mean, we knew that we were going to do a proposal as a small group and ask for feedback, but from the commissioner's point of view, what was the point of the vote? What, in other words, what is on the ballot box at this moment?
Hi, Char.
Hi.
You have to unmute.
Hi, Char.
Hi.
She can hear you.
Okay, the commissioners thought we received a proposal, some ideas from Kate Connors, and we had the 6 taxing district fence rules. And we thought that, you'd have sort of choice A or choice B, maybe some other choice. And we communicated with Kate the other day, and then we just received Rob's proposal this evening. So we just got it at 6:30, so we didn't really have a chance to digest it. But that we want to give the residents, do they want to choose the existing fence rules, or do they want to choose something that your sort of group has proposed? I think this, what Rob sent, it looks, it's many pages long. I don't know if we can boil it down to, like 6 or 7 guidelines, and then that can be what the choice is.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. I just wasn't sure if there were other proposals that had been submitted.
Not that we received, no, just Kate, she kind of handed it over to Rob.
Exactly. Okay, got it. My thoughts are, and I've been a part of the group that, Rob worked with to come up with the guidelines. But I also still go back to, why is it so hard to just take a stand for people of color and allow the sign to stand when so many other towns have done it? And I know we've rehashed this, and it's been rehashed before I started joining these meetings about this topic. But every time I drive over the huge Black Lives Matter mural that's on, the main thoroughfare of Stamford and all these other towns, I question, why is our community having such a heated debate about this? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. Rowayton is a town that, came together for Mikey Strong, that has come together for me when my parents were dying. And I don't understand why this issue of Black Lives Matter has come up against such pushback. My fear is that if we send people out into the public during the worst pandemic in 100 years in a red zone, Norwalk is currently in a red zone, and we're asking people to come out into the public, I just don't understand that part of it. I don't know. I feel as though we've already voted, we've had petitions, and now Rob has come up with this framework. Why not just adopt it and, allow people to weigh in on it and come to a conclusion that we are going to stand behind Black Lives Mattering? Because my fear is that history will look very poorly back on our town as closing the gates to people of color, because that's how it's being received by the Black community, by the Latinx community, by people of color. That's how it feels. Whether that's intentional or not, is up for debate and is probably a very personal, person by person issue. But I don't want our town to have this reputation of they sent their people out because they thought it was more important to risk lives and go out into a pandemic. We didn't even do that for the national vote. So I'm very conflicted as to why we're experiencing this debate. This should be a win. We should be displaying this sign proudly. We should be proud to say that we will not accept racism in this town, and that we will have, citizens and commissioners alike that will support that. I think we're getting into very muddy waters, asking people to go to the community center. That is just my opinion. It's not the opinion of the group. We haven't really talked about that aspect of it. I am speaking, though, for people of color who have expressed that concern to me. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Char, I don't think the issue is not whether it's Black Lives Matter. The commissioners made a statement back in the winter in support of Black Lives Matter. It's on our website. The issue is what type of signs can be posted on a public fence. And our job as commissioners is to manage the district property. And that is our charge. Our charge is not to decide social or humanitarian issues. The fence actually belongs to the city of Norwalk, and it is our job to manage that fence. And we had rules, and a number of people have come to us and said, let's change the rules. So that's what we're trying to decide. We're not here to decide Black Lives Matter. It's a public fence, and I'm not familiar with the sign that you're referring to in Stamford. I don't know if it's on public or private property, but this is public property, and that's what we have to determine is what can go on this public property.
So it's public property, the main thoroughfare going through Stamford. It's public property, on Martha's Vineyard at Beetlebung Corner. It's public property in front of the White House. It's public property on, I can't remember if it's Fifth Avenue, Park Avenue in front of Trump Tower. It just, public property has rules and we get that, but it just seems that other communities are able to say, screw the rules. This is the largest social justice civil rights movement in history, literally happening now. And our little town is saying, well, we have to abide by the rules, so we're not going to allow it to stand. People are angry, and perhaps they're not as vocal as I am, because they are afraid of reprisals. I'm just at the point where this is about people being murdered in the street. And I can no longer be happy and joyous that we have happy birthday signs and we're trying to compare that to life or death. I have a woman that calls me weekly whose brother was murdered, and I'm trying to offer her compassion. And I get concerned about the reputation of living in a place that doesn't think it's that important, because that's what it's sounding like.
Okay, there's someone, I don't know who it is, named iPhone, who has their hand up and wants to speak. There are a number of different people with the name iPhone. So wherever you are, unmute yourself and introduce yourself for the record, which we need for our minutes. Okay, well, maybe that person's gone now. They had their hand up for a long time. We did post on our Facebook page. We do not use Nextdoor anymore, but on our Facebook page, which I know not everyone is on, but we did post, and we will circulate once we get the ballots finalized, that if people are not comfortable voting in person, to email our district clerk requesting that they do not want to vote in person, but they want to vote. We have not figured out exactly how we're going to mechanism for doing that, but we will. So if you are not comfortable voting in person and would like to vote, remotely, please email Andrea Woodworth. So it's awoodworth@rowayton6td.com. And, we will get an email blast out in advance of the vote, and that address will be in there, and just respond with your name and contact info, and we will figure something out. The last townwide vote we had in Rowayton in the 6th taxing district was for the pool in 2008, and that only allowed in-person voting, but obviously circumstances have changed. Okay, Lauren Henry wanted to ask a question, or it says Lauren, I'm assuming it's Lauren Henry. Just unmute yourself, which you can do.
Yeah, it's me. My question was about registered voters. That's the first time I've heard that registered voters are the only ones eligible to vote. What about someone who owns property in Rowayton and pays taxes? And isn't
get the
registered?
List. The way we did this for the pool is we get a list from the Norwalk Register of Voters, and anyone who is in the 6th taxing district who votes in 6th taxing district elections is who votes on this, or that's the determination that is made. And if you look at our charter, it refers to electors. So it's just based on that.
Okay, thanks.
Someone asked, will you send notification of the vote in the regular 6TD email? Of course, that's the plan. Once we get, once we finalize the ballot options. I don't see anything more in the chat. Oh, yeah. Daniel Honan would like to ask another question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I just, I don't know what the policy is of the commissioners on a vote that's brought to the public, but I did want to, officially offer this up as a question if you would endorse Rob's proposal. If you could consider that, right?
You mean the proposal that you just sent?
That's right.
We haven't had a chance to review it.
No, I know not tonight, but
Okay.
It's something you could do.
But I think, based on the pool, the commissioners on the pool vote, there have been 2 pool votes. We did not take a stance either way. we were impartial.
And my question is, could you and would you consider that in a case like this?
I mean, we could and we would, but we've also had residents tell us that they like the fence signs the way they are, or they want no signs on the fence. So,
Well, I mean, respectfully, we've heard in every public hearing, a large majority, an absolute majority of people who showed up on these meetings say the exact opposite. So I just don't understand your point there.
There's a gentleman on the call this evening that just spoke he didn't necessarily say keep it the way it was, but he thinks we're skating on thin ice.
So wait, what? So one person? I just don't understand how would you determine the position that the commissioners would take or not?
We are meant to be impartial. We are meant to be impartial. That's what our part of our duties are. This is why we're having a vote, so that everyone can express it can be a democracy, and we will oversee that process. I think if we went out and we endorsed one proposal over another, then, would you even trust the vote count? So I think we have a duty to remain impartial.
Okay, I understand that point. And so is it the position of the commissioners then, so I understand it, to remain impartial here? And not,
I would think so. I would think so. We have not discussed that, to be honest with you. We've been trying to figure out the mechanism for doing this and trying to handle all the questions that we've gotten, and we're figuring this out as we go. As I said, our last vote was in 2008. That was 12 years ago. Okay, I think, I think that maybe is everything, and we'll move on to the next topic.
No, sorry. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Rob Pratt, sorry you had your hand up.
Yeah.
It's kind of tricky to follow both chat and hands, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, just wanted to express that, one, I understand your position in terms of neutrality. I understand that, what we're trying to do is give you guys a framework that can hopefully kind of not make it about you guys personally making decisions, but giving you a framework. To that end, I just want to reiterate that what we sent over is meant to be a basis of collaboration with you guys. If you feel that there's something that's not tenable in there for you guys to work with, would love to hear from you on that, so that we can, at least in our proposal that people would vote on, have something that's realistic that you guys feel you could actually work with, rather than dread touching. Because I don't envy your position in this, but that's where we are in this moment of history.
That's great. We'll reach out to you. We appreciate your offer. We can review it, and if we have some questions or clarifications, and then,
and I think, as Tammy said, this is going to be, a ballot with, at this point, we believe 2 choices, and, we might, you sent us a pretty lengthy proposal. As I said, we didn't have time to read the whole thing or even discuss it. But, we will need to simplify it, because this will need to be, someone comes in to vote, they're probably not going to be able to read 3 pages. It will be, we'll have to see. But I, in the back of my mind, had thought it would be one page with 2 sets of what the rules could look like, and people could read through them and then choose A or B.
Yeah, understood. You mentioned that you received it at 6:30. I sent it at 3:30. I don't know if you have a weird email forwarding system or not, but if there's a better email to use, I'm happy to use that.
No, I think I'm the main person who monitors that email, and I was working. So
yeah, no worries. I wasn't really expecting you guys to have been able to do it even at 3:30, but anyway, just wanted to reiterate, spirit of collaboration here. Don't, not envious of your situation and trying to create a situation where there is a fair framework where the people that feel about an important issue that they want to put their name to it and have 100 people else putting their name to it, we allow them to do that. And we have to have some modicum of faith in the neighbors that we live with, that those, that 101 people will make a more appropriate decision in terms of whether they support something going up on the fence or not, and what that would do to the community. And, if it doesn't work, obviously things can be changed, but, I just think that there's a framework, and then there's faith that Rowayton is full of more good people than not. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. There was someone, iPhone keeps on having their hand up. I don't know if whoever that is, if they did get to speak. If you want to speak, just unmute yourself, which you can do. But maybe your hand went up a while ago and your question's been answered. Okay.
All right. So it doesn't look like anybody else has put a chat or anything. So let's move on to the next order of business, please. Could we please have the district treasurer report? Gil.
Gil, you can unmute yourself. Oops. There's
Okay, briefly, I've provided the handouts to the commissioners of the following. First off, I'd like to say that I've given all of you a copy of the report of bills paid for October 2020. And in the COVID times, if you wouldn't mind just printing those, you're free to drop it in the mail, drop it in the 6TD, or even take a photo of it with your signature of just to acknowledge that you've reviewed the bills paid, so that we have a copy of that for our auditors. And I've copied Andrea on this too for minutes. The other thing I've copied.
Can I pass around an e-signature for the other commissioners?
E-signatures are fine, yes. In any way, I'll make it as easy as possible. E-signature, take a picture, whatever you want.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And similarly, Andrea, for the meeting minutes, rather, I've provided you with capital funds project balances report as of October 31st of this year, as well as a budget versus actual report, which I'll just highlight. Seasonally, everything is pretty much in line, with the exception that Tammy's done a great job on drilling down on the railroad station finances and situation there. And through very difficult decisions of putting people on furlough, essentially, we've cut some expenses, and we've cut some administrative expenses associated with that as well, because of efficiencies that Ed has taken and previous treasurer as far as automating payments. So our expense side has been reduced a little. So at the end of the year, even though we're down, things should be relatively close to in expenses and income should be relatively in line. The other item that is out of whack a little bit with the budget versus actual would be the beach. As you can imagine, we didn't have any walk-in traffic and the associated income revenues from the concerts and fireworks and things like that. So that is significantly lower, $43,000 approximately less than budgeted for the year, and we don't anticipate that will change at all. So that'll be a little hole in the budget. Other than that, we're working on the auditors on the annual audit for the year. We did get an extension on that, but we're okay there. And then the commissioners, the department supervisors rather, we've requested that you make your proposed budget items so that we can prepare the 21-22 budget draft. And that pretty much concludes the treasurer's report.
Okay, thank you, Gil. Then next up is the fire marshal report. Ed, please.
Thank you, Tammy. Yeah, we continue to do our training and meetings on Zoom. I attended a hoarding workshop on Zoom for updates from the state. I've been purchasing some new code books because of the state is going to be updating the code to the 2018 code, and that is probably going to occur in October 2021. We did have 4 calls on Sunday night for trees on houses in the district. There were no injuries. One of the families that was there had to relocate for the night because of the damage to their house. And the last item is I have still have some 10-year battery smoke detectors available if any residents need them, just to contact me at the office. They are 10-year battery smoke detectors. And that's my report.
Thank you, Ed. Then could we please have the property manager's report?
Property manager, surely. Community center, the dog park has been fertilized and overseeded by Jason. We had an estimate to replace the case for the ship model that was received from Select Plastic. Wendell Livingston got that estimate. We are seeking additional estimates. Bailey Beach for the winter, the water has been turned off and winterized. The bathrooms are closed. The gate was recently damaged by a vehicle. We don't know who it was, but it was a minor damage and our district people were able to repair it. We did have some minor damage to the Adirondack chairs following this last Sunday's storm, and they've all been put away. Pinckney Park, the lamp on the barn had to be repaired and is now in working order. Jason also did fertilization and overseeding at the park, and the farmer's market will end on this Friday. It's the last day. The last item is at the Cannon Monument. As in years past, people from the All Seasons Marine do it themselves. They shrink wrap the base of the cannon because in years past, I know when I was growing up, a big thing to do was to paint the cannon. We haven't seen that in years, but they do provide the shrink wrapping, and we appreciate it. And I think it would be good to the district clerk, as she's done in years past, to send a thank you note to All Seasons Marine.
Agreed.
And that's it.
Great, thank you, Ed. And I would definitely appreciate a letter being sent to All Season, a thank you letter. Thank you, Andrea. Okay. Then the next topic is district clerk's report, please.
Okay. We got, hear me? I don't know. All groups who usually use the community center for meetings to let them know that I've notified all of them to let them know they can again meet here. I let them know that they will have to pay the district $50 for an in-depth cleaning after each use. The district will send the money to the cleaning service. One of the Pinckney Park yoga teachers will start, I brought the wrong one. I didn't send you that either, did I? Or here it is. That's what I thought I did. So skip that. That was last month. I don't believe that any of the regular users of the community center have started having events there, except for the monthly Good Wives Rug Hookers. They will have had the first meeting after the closing for COVID today. The yoga class previously scheduled for Monday and Friday mornings has been canceled until further notice because of COVID. The chamber orchestra practice is scheduled for each Wednesday through December 9th in the Moose Room. The December 2nd meeting will not be held on that date because of the vote or about the fence. The commissioners have scheduled an election concerning the hanging of a science old school fence there. 2 letters, one to Wayne Dupree and one to Peter Havens, confirming the dismissal of these railroad guards due to the economic stresses of the COVID-19 pandemic have been mailed. Dick Packer has asked for permission to run his soccer camps on June 21 to 25 and June 28th through July 2nd at the community center under the usual conditions. Is this okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. I have contacted one of the registrars of voters, Stuart Wells, in Norwalk, to ask for a list of electors for the 6th taxing district, as well as a ballot box if available. These items are for the old school field fence sign that has been a topic around town, and for the vote about that. The election during this topic will be held on December 2nd, as I mentioned a couple times already. Okay, that's it.
Then, are there any other issues to be brought up? Commissioners? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
You have a motion to adjourn?
Okay, thank you, everybody. We will meet for the December meeting.
The
on
14th? I think it's
December 16th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go, and the time is,
7:59.
yeah, probably have that on my computer, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night, everybody.